Hello and welcome, I'm Damion Mitchell. Today we continue our focus on the agricultural sector. We look at the Grow series that the Gleaner has been carrying for the past few weeks. We'll talk with the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Dr. Christopher Tufton, to find out the truths, the triumphs, the trials of a sector called agriculture. He will be speaking with us for the next 30 minutes or so. Dr. Tufton, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We want to focus on predial larceny and its impact on the farming communities, young farmers, greenhouse technology, research and development, just to name a few of the areas. And we want to also include in our discussion some questions that have come from some of our readers online, as well as some of our viewers who have posted questions through the Gleaner's feedback site, gireports.com. But let's start with the matter of budget. Money has always been the case. Just how much is your budget being affected by the economic crisis and the changes that have had to be made?
It has been affected, like all other ministries in government. The government, the country has a serious financial issue. An issue that is linked to legacy issues, challenges that we have had over many years, which has seen a national debt profile that places us in a category where we are heavily indebted and have to service that debt as a first call on the budget, and therefore less remaining for other ministries. Beyond that, we have been impacted severely over the last few years by a fallout in traditional revenue generating, foreign exchange generating sectors such as the bauxite industry, remittances from overseas family members and supporters. So all that combined has placed the government in a context where less has been available to go around. Now we have engaged the IMF, as you know, and have gotten some financial support from them linked to some conditionalities, which has made it quite challenging for us in agriculture as well as other ministries.
What makes it so challenging?
Well, I mean, there's always a lot more that one could do if one had the resources. The less the resources is the more one has to prioritize. And as a consequence, you can't address all the challenges that you face. In our case, our ministry was undergoing or has been undergoing a major restructuring in the past couple of years. We have expanded, for example, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, doubled the extension services there, employing nearly 100 new extension officers. That has a budgetary implication. Now we have been able to restructure that budget to hire and to compensate these persons, but their efforts would be a lot more effective if we're able to add additional support for them, equip them with better offices, maybe more reliable transportation, technology type tools and equipment. So while we're doing that, the process would be a lot better and more effective if we had the resources.
At the same time, your sector remains maybe just one of two which recorded significant growth last year, 12% to be exact.
Right.
You're also pointing to an increase in your extension services and your core staff. Does the fact that there was an increase in production last year mean that in effect it was being captured better by the increased staff you had, or was there indeed an increase?
It's a combination of both, and the data is there. The data is there. For one, we found a lot more persons entering the industry. If you look at the statin data, some 12,500 new jobs have been created in agriculture. Now, it would clearly and logically suggest that if you have more people going in and engaging more lands, which the data also suggests, then you're going to have more output. In terms of yields have been severely impacted by the drought conditions over the last year. In essence, we would have been able to produce a lot more if we had more consistent rainfall or access to water. But the fact that more people went in, more acreages were put under production, and logically it translated into increased output. In terms of capturing the data, the same infrastructure that we have had before my time is the same infrastructure that's there. We have done a number of things to try and improve that infrastructure. Included in that would be the extension officers who are in the field, who will give more time to capturing that data. And so yes, qualitatively we have been done a little better at that, but one cannot identify any one reason to support that expansion in production. What is clear is that more agricultural activity took place over the last year than the year before.
Financial support is another critical factor for businesses in the agricultural sector. Since most of our talk this afternoon will focus on issues raised by our viewers and our readers of the Gleaner, let's hit it. We have one question from Mark Frederick. He writes on GI Reports, Minister Tufton, to my certain knowledge, several small businesses in the agricultural sector, including myself, have been the recipient of support from the Caribbean Export Development Agency, CEDA, to facilitate our export initiatives. The CEDA grant is a reimbursable grant, and so micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises must find the funds upfront to implement the project and be reimbursed on the back end. Many of us don't have the strength in cash flow at this time to fund the project upfront and are having difficulty finding collateral and funds to support a loan with a rate in some case in excess of 9.5% payback. Can you help us urgently, he asked.
The issue of access to financing is a perennial problem within the sector, largely because of the profile of the sector. The sector is characterized as being a much more risky investment than many other sectors, and the macroeconomic framework, which saw high interest rates being more a norm than an exception, has directed resources more towards these safer investments than to agriculture. In addition to that, the farmer profile, many of whom are small without collateral, takes them outside of the band of traditional investors and the considerations to lend, which requires hardcore collateral, is absent. What we have done over the last couple of years is to tailor specific programs, in particular the farm program, which is financial access for responsible members, where we have tried to recalibrate the risk profile of the farmer by giving that farmer best practices training, by working with them in terms of their land preparation, in terms of market opportunities, and then linking them to financial institutions who have been willing to give them resources with little or no collateral. That has worked in some specific crop areas. We're still having some teething pains. A farmer like the one asking that question could possibly look at that as a possible option, as long as they fit the profile that we have been working with, which is to target crops that have a market and practice a form of agriculture that is embracing technology-driven approach.